everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to show you today how I made Angel of Joy, that beautiful tall vase. First, I'm going to show you how I attached my textured vinyl to the vase. All I did to attach this vinyl to this base is I used packing tape. It's a 6-inch by 12-inch textured vinyl strip, and you can see the seam right there, which will not be visible underneath the resin. I love packing tape. I use it in conjunction with resin all of the time. So I made sure and made it very tight all the way around. It's a really tight fit so that the resin will seal the edges. I absolutely love this textured vinyl. And I'm doing my technique here where I have already measured out the resin into syringes. I find this so useful and such a time saver when I just want to use a little bit of resin to go in and do a cup pour. I can crank out a cup pour so quickly without getting all messy and without dirtying up a bunch of measuring cups, and I just really love this. If you're interested in this technique or how to fill these syringes up, I have a video that I made last week that I will post a link to in this video. I'm using craft resin for this project because I really love how smoothly it lays down. The low viscosity is a dream for doing things on the cup turner. It gives a really nice thin layer, a very thin bead, and it's so easy to work with. It's really easy to mix up. I'm mixing 4 ounces of resin because I'm planning on using the extra resin to make another project. You'll see in a little bit that I have an additional mold in there. Let me show y'all a little bit of my setup. I have this really cute holder to keep these syringes in that keep them upright and keep anything from spilling or making a mess, and it makes such a difference. So I'm going to mix the resin for 3 minutes, and then I'm going to give it 5 minutes or a little bit longer depending on the ambient temperature of the room, and then I will move on to my cup pour. I added 3 drops of Ranger Mixative Pearl. I really love the very subtle sheer shine that it offers. It makes such a lovely base while still keeping it really transparent. It's just a great way to, if you want to do just a little bit to enhance your resin, you can absolutely use these mixatives, and all of them will offer a very subtle hue if you don't use too many drops of it, and it won't affect the cure of your resin. It's important to mention that safety is vital when working with resin. Wearing the gloves, I have on a respirator. You will see that I take off my gloves during certain parts of this to work with other tools, but that's when there won't be any resin chance of it touching my skin. People can be very sensitive to it, and it is incredibly important to make sure that you're protected and that you are not breathing in resin and that you are not getting it on your skin. It's also super important to keep pets away, children. This is not for anyone else to have access to. So make sure before you jump into doing resin that you're very aware of this chemical and all of the instructions on your resin bottle. So I am just putting on very small amounts of beads of the resin, and it has thickened up and it's nice and warm, so it's just beautiful to work with, and I hardly lose any of it underneath. My objective right now is just to basically ice the piece. I want to get resin all over it. I don't want there to be any glass parts shining back at me. I want there to be resin on absolutely every space before I go to the next step. After I do this, I'm going to wipe off my gloves really well and use hand sanitizer to make sure that my gloves are pristine before I pick up any other pigment or I use any other tools. And this textured vinyl just takes the resin like a dream. I did not do any additional prep to this. It's a vase, so it won't be used for drinking. It would be different if you were doing a tumbler, but the vase will not receive the washing or the wear and tear that a tumbler might. So the vinyl is just the textured vinyl. I'm putting the resin right on top of it, and I find that this works beautifully. The texture is very visible, but it also isn't a very high texture. So the resin covers it really nicely and holds it in without you needing a bunch of layers of it. Which is also why I wait for the resin to thicken up so that it really stays where you put it. So now I'm making sure and getting a really good seal at the bottom of the vinyl and the top of the vinyl. I want the resin to go up underneath it if it can. It's really on there tightly. But I want that seal to really connect at the top and the bottom. I'm also going to use glitter at the bottom in a minute to camouflage that bottom edge. I like to use toilet paper in conjunction with hand sanitizer to clean off my gloves. I keep a roll of toilet paper at every station in my home that I do crafting at, and then you can just pull off a tiny little square of toilet paper to get sticky off your hand or whatever. I really like having clean gloves, and I use my gloves over and over and over again. So I find that the toilet paper plus the hand sanitizer is a very cost-effective way to clean up, but also it's very environmentally friendly because I'm using just a tiny bit of paper. And of course I don't throw this in the toilet. I throw it in a protected trash can that then I will take out chemical waste on. Just look at that incredible shine. I am such a huge fan of this product and the way that this turned out. And I have put some of these up in my Etsy shop. I'd like to make it as easy as possible for all of you to create the most beautiful art. And this is my endeavor with showing you these tutorials. I feel like my life has been saved by resin, and I absolutely want to share that gift with all of you. If I can make it easy for you to create something magical and beautiful, that is the goal. So I hope that this is so helpful for everyone. What you saw there was a resin pigment paste that I make myself. I really like being able to add whatever I want in a particular pigment paste depending on what the objective is. What my objective is in this is I really want pretty waves and I want to create large cells. So I have been perfecting my pigment paste for years, and I have different objectives. So I use a stick right out of my own pigment paste, and then I actually place it right on the resin. But of course I don't want to put that back in the pigment paste now that it has resin that will cure on it. So I use the stick, I put it in the pigment paste when it's completely clean, I pull out what I want to make the veins that I want to make, and then I make sure and clean off my stick completely if I'm going to use it again inside the pigment paste. This is adding more resin on top of the pigment paste because I'm about to make some cells. Gonna make some waves around here. Really, this is truly just magic. This product does all of the work. I have this up in my Etsy shop as well. I absolutely love the benefit that you can get from a well-mixed pigment paste. You'll see as these cells come up and as the waves come up that it's really just effortless. The blow drying it up, this vase, it's not easy to tell, has a bell at the top, and I want to make sure and get plenty of resin up to that bell because by the nature of the way that the vase is shaped, the resin is going to want to pull back from that edge because of gravity. So I really want to get that up, but mostly what I'm trying to do right now is I'm using my cheap little blow dryer on high because I want that to really, really push the resin around. So just look at those beautiful, beautiful waves and cells. It's incredible. I love how this works. You can also, I don't think you can see it in the video, but the base where I had put the alcohol ink pearl really comes through beautifully on that space too. So I also want to camouflage this edge. I'm putting a rhinestone collar around it when I'm done. So I already know that I'm going to be doing something visually to camouflage the edge. But you wouldn't have to. You could do lots of things here. You could do crystals. You could use broken glass. There are a ton of ways that you could camouflage the edge if you even needed to. So now I'm using the rest of the resin that was in my glass. That glass was getting really hot, and I knew that I needed to get all the resin out. And I'm not bothering to lay it down with my glove because the resin is now so warm and so thick that it's not going anywhere. It's just flattening into the resin that was already on there. And I am going to use this super cute little keychain sunflower mold to turn my cup upside down, and that was why I poured the extra resin that I did, because I also wanted it to fill up this mold, and I'll play with that later. I'm looking for more cell creation, but I don't want to use the blow dryer and keep moving it around too much. I don't want the white to flatten out or become muddy. So I'm using a hand tool that just pushes it just a little and creates lovely cells. And I really like the way that this works without doing too much. It pushes it out, it creates the cells, it helps create the wave look without muddying the white or making the white spread out too much. My pigment paste is really thick, but I've designed it so that you can use it right on a cup turning piece and that it will still cure. So this will be the final coat that I do. I could do an additional coat, but since I'm using it as a vase and I'm selling it as a vase, I actually really like that a little bit of the texture from the vinyl will still be just right at the surface, yet all of it will be covered and smooth as if all of it has a glass-like finish. So I have my blow dryer on low, and what I'm doing is I'm pushing all of the resin back up to the edge again. I felt like it still didn't have quite enough white coming to the edge, and I'm just heating up all of the resin so that it lays out smoothly, so that it has a really, really beautiful, fine, glass-like texture. So visually, I'm very happy with where this is at right now. I'm going to tweak it a little bit here and there, but I'm really happy with this. So I have my little glitter tray, and I'm putting glitter on the bottom seam where the glass meets the vinyl. There's just a tiny space visually, and I'd rather you see glitter there than see a harsh line. And so I'm using a glitter that has the same type of color changing effect that the vinyl does, and it's a glitter from Recollections. I'll link all of this in the video, or in the information for the video. I decided at this point that the piece would really benefit from a subtle amount of glitter across the rim at the top as well. So it's a little bit hard to see what I'm doing, but I'm putting glitter along the bottom rim to camouflage that line, and I'm putting glitter across the top to have the edge be just ever so slightly sparkly. And that just looked so lovely. and it made me think that I really wanted even more white to come to the edge. So I'm sprinkling glitter all across the edge, but not too much. And then I realized what I wanted was glitter everywhere, because really that's what I want in life, is glitter everywhere. And I also added some glitter to the seam, to the top seam, just in case you could see some of it above or below after I add the rhinestones, because it's glitter. Come on, let's add some more. Go! I like to move my turner to angle it up or down depending on which way I want the resin to flow. If I don't want to use my blow dryer, I want gravity to help me. So I liked everything that this was doing, but I wanted to get the resin to have a really strong bead of resin up around the top edge. So I leaned the entire apparatus so that the bottom of the vase comes up and the top of the vase goes down, so that all of the resin moves towards the top of the vase, and that more of the white moves there. That also creates some lacing and some cells, which I always want more of. So I'm finishing up adding the glitter, and then I'm gonna tilt the entire setup so that it will move all of the resin towards the top of the glass. Still keeping it very smooth, it'll still have plenty of resin on it. That is also why I used so much resin. I used a lot more than I would have used on a typical tumbler, because I really wanted to make sure that vinyl was sealed in, and I wanted to make sure that the resin was completely covering all of the piece, so that I wouldn't have to do a second round with this. I'm so pleased with how this turned out, how this is turning out, and I just need for all of the resin to move down to the edge. So this is where I'm tilting the entire cup turner and making sure to balance the mat that's underneath. By the way, the paper that's underneath is just kitchen wax paper. I love using this so that I don't have to do cleanup. You'll see with lots of the things that I do, I've been doing this for 4 years, and I put a lot of thought into how to do it better and how to not have to clean, because why would I want to be doing that when I could be doing something fun like making resin? So lots of the things that I do are born of the idea, how can I do less of the tedious, unfun stuff and do more of the actual fun stuff? I really thought at this point that it would benefit from just a little bit more of the pearl mixative, the Ranger pearl mixative, being added right at the top. It has a very unique quality that separates the resin, and it does something more than lacing. It kind of creates its own crater, and then on the edges it has a pearl. It leaves a pearl space, like a pearl thread. It's not thread, but it's hard to explain. That then when the product is done, when the whole thing is done being cured, you have what looks like this pearl vein that's very light reflective and just so gorgeous. It's very angelic and heavenly. So I like adding some type of alcohol ink or something with alcohol at this point in lots of my pours. And also I'm using it along the edge as an additional interest and separator of the two spaces that are going to be underneath the rhinestones that I'm adding in a little while. So I really love how this worked. I also used an additional alcohol ink that has an interference red in it, you'll see in the final product that there is a red pearl interference happening on top of all of it that turned out so beautiful. So there's color shifting happening everywhere. I'm doing the same technique again where I'm moving around where I just put the alcohol ink. I want it to move. I want it to shift more to get more interest out of it. So I'm using the tilt of the whole machine to get the benefit of moving around the alcohol ink and create more cells and more interest. If y'all are interested, I put the textured vinyl that I used and I put the resin pigment paste that I made into my Etsy shop because I'd like y'all to all be able to make something just like what I made. I will show you in an upcoming video how I take the top off of wine bottles and I put them on my turner and use them to make all these fantastic pieces. I happen to have gotten this piece of glass from Dollar Tree, but that's very hit or miss, and sadly lately it's been a lot more miss. The glass is gone, at least where I live. Okay, so I'm taking my craft resin stir stick. I just absolutely love these. I have a bunch of them now, and they're so useful. So I'm pulling the resin back up to the top edge again and flattening out some of the white. I decided that I really liked the white overtaking the clear and that I wanted most of the top to be white with the cells were just magnificent. So I was really happy with how all the white was doing, and it was still really translucent, but it was just so pretty. So I only wanted there to be just ever so slightly the clear that you could see through the glass, and most of it I wanted to be like clouds and angel wings was my thinking when I was doing it. If you'd be interested in a video watching me take the top off of the wine bottles, I would be happy to do that. Just leave me a note in the comments, or anything else that you might be interested in watching me do that has to do with resin. I have done it all, I think. So, but I would be happy even if I hadn't done it to try something new, because if I'm gonna flop, you know, why not flop and have everybody learn something about it? So this is a bottle with alcohol ink mixed with interference powder, and I'm creating the last bit of cells. The resin is very thick and set up by now, so I'm feeling confident that the alcohol ink isn't going to move it around too much, but what it is going to do is sink in a few places and add that beautiful ghost effect. And I wanted it in red because I wanted it to match the red-orange sunset feel of the textured vinyl. I'm sure that I'm not alone in this, but I struggle with knowing when I'm done. And sometimes I go 1 or 2 or 50 steps past when the piece is absolutely perfect and I really should have quit. So I'm trying to decide at this point, am I done? Is it perfect? Because it's so gorgeous, but could it be better? So I'm thinking, do I risk all of it falling apart because I do one step too far and then I'm mad at myself? And I decided it's pretty much perfect exactly the way it is. So now I'm just looking to make sure that there aren't any spaces where the resin doesn't cover the glass. There are lots of places where it's still transparent, and that's totally fine. I want it to be transparent in a lot of places, but what I don't want is for there to be any gaps that aren't covered by resin. And cleaning off my tools with my toilet paper and my hand sanitizer so that when I'm done, my tools are all completely clean, my gloves are completely clean, everything is ready to use. If I wanted to do another pour immediately, I could do that, and I'm cleaning off my gloves. And I will reuse and reuse and reuse all of these pieces until they break, basically. I thank you so much for your interest in my art and my tutorials. I would love all of your feedback, good and bad. Tell me what you think. Tell me what I can do better. Tell me what you're interested in. And I am Magically Resin on all of the platforms. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great day. And try stuff. Just try resin. Play with it. Whatever the craft is, just try it. And, of course, be safe. Here is the final product. I'm
this beautiful
so
vase
pleased
is called
with how
Angel
this turned
of
out.
Joy. I made her with craft resin.
I am just
so
thrilled with the color shift,
craft
the
resin.
level of the lacing,
I made
the
a
waves.
YouTube video
there
tutorial
you can really
of how I
see
did
the
this,
pearl
and I put
how
some of
beautiful
the mats
that is.
that I used
this
up
just
in
turned
my
out
Etsy
gorgeous,
shop.
and it's up in my Etsy shop.